Hello students. I'm making this video to talk about the last concept from chapter 6 of ManQ, which is about taxes. So far in the lecture, we've studied about the first thing was about price controls, and within price controls, we've talked about price ceiling and price floor. Price ceiling are the prices which are set by government, above which you cannot go because it's a ceiling. And similarly, price floors are the prices below which you cannot go because it's the floor. You can't go below the floor. And then we've talked about several applications of price ceiling and price floor. We've talked about how a price ceiling and price floor can be binding or non-binding. If they're non-binding, I mean, it's not going to make any difference to the outcomes of the economy, the market outcomes. It's not going to change prices. It's not going to change quantity. It's not likely to affect the quality. It's not likely to affect the illegal market of that commodity. Uh, but if you're talking about the binding scenarios of price ceiling and price floor, then we've observed that there could be possible excess demand, excess supply situations, which are the changes in the market outcomes that we talked about. But there could be several unintended consequences, which could be that there's a probable change in the quality of the product. There's a probable change in the quantity that goes into, for instance, an ice cream. So again, the formation of the commodity may differ as an unintended consequence of this policy. There could be an illegal market that might come up, and similar other possibilities that we've talked about. So all of those are probable cases. I mean, I'm not saying that all of those are going to happen. Discrimination was one other such unintended consequence that we talked about. But there's a definite consequence, which is that there will be an excess demand or excess supply, depending on where the price ceiling or price floor is. So once we know about all those things, next topic in your chapter is about taxes. So we'll talk about taxes here. Let me share the screen before I talk about taxes. Not this. All right. So as I said, so we'll talk about taxes. Then the first thing that comes to our mind is, why should we tax? Why should government tax in the first place? So government imposes tax to earn revenue so that it can spend on roads, hospitals, national defense, etc. So there's no way government can do without tax. I mean, it could be that, I mean, in a ruler, in a czar, in a king run kind of country, there probably, I mean, a tax may not, if they want, they may not have any tax. I mean, they can probably have their own companies. They can have people working for them, and that's how they can make money. But in a country like ours, in a country like, I mean, most of the countries that are present today, their major source of income is tax income. I mean, they do have their own companies. For instance, government has a lot of public companies, not the public listed. I'm talking about public companies, government companies. But despite having them, that money that it earns from those companies is very low. In many of the companies, they make losses. So tax revenue is a major source of their income, which they use to spend on all the infrastructure that they create for the nation, on providing education, healthcare, etc. So, however, many a times, government's imposition of tax is motivated from different factors that make them choose to tax firms specifically or workers specifically. I mean, it's not that they just want to collect taxes. It also, I mean, government also needs to take into consideration, whom should we tax? Should we tax firms? Should we tax consumers? So they often come from some logic using which they tax one or the other. So depending on how, or depending on whom do the tax, does that affect economic outcomes, or how does that affect economic outcomes? So that's another question that we'll want to ask. Tax incidence, uh, which is an unintended consequence, as I'll describe later. So it's very important to know who bears the final burden of tax. So the intended consequence of that is, so government thought that I'll impose this tax. So the first outcome of that is government will want that much amount of tax from people. So government thought of getting this much amount of tax collection. The second is, government thought that I'm going to impose it on firms. So it's going to be the firms who will pay this tax. But an unintended consequence, as we'll see in the lecture ahead, uh, the unintended consequences that government thought that they're imposing it on firms, but they were actually indirectly, unintentionally, they were imposing it on consumers as well. Or vice versa, government thought that we are imposing it on consumers, but probably they ended up imposing it on firms as well, unintentionally, as an unintended consequence. We'll talk about all of that. But these are the things that we need to keep in mind going ahead with this lecture. So let's come back to our ongoing example about ice cream seller. So suppose government imposed tax on an ice cream seller. Who will bear the eventual burden of tax? So pay attention here that I'm not talking about who will pay the tax. So if the government has imposed a tax on ice cream seller, it's going to be the seller who's going to pay the tax. The seller will send that money to government. But who will bear the eventual burden of tax? So is it that suppose government taxes 10 rupees per unit on the seller, 10 rupees per unit of ice cream on the seller? Is it that all 10 rupees goes from the pocket of the seller all the time? I mean, eventually as well in the end? Or is it that even though seller is paying 10 rupees to the government, but seller said, okay, I'll increase the price of ice cream by 6 rupees, which means now this increased price of 6 rupees is coming from the pocket of consumer. So it's the consumer who is paying 6 rupees and seller is paying only the rest 4 rupees. So in that case, the burden of tax is divided between consumer and producer, wherein government, so look at these chain of events. So government imposed 10 rupees tax per unit of ice cream on seller. Seller said, I will not bear all these 10 rupees. So seller said that I'll pass on some of that to consumer. So seller passed on some of that tax to consumer. Let's say seller passed on 6 rupees to consumer. So in that case, consumer now has to pay, suppose consumer used to pay 30 rupees earlier for the ice cream. Now the consumer is going to pay 36 rupees. And seller used to rupees 30 rupees for the ice cream earlier. Now the seller is receiving 36 rupees. So out of 36 rupees, seller needs to pay 10 rupees to the government. So eventually the seller is now left with 26. Earlier seller used to receive 30 and keep all of it with himself or herself. Now the seller receives 36, pays 10 to government, is left with only 26. So the seller has lost 4 rupees. Buyer, on the other hand, used to pay 30 earlier. Now the buyer is paying 36 rupees. So the buyer has lost 6 rupees. So if you see 10 rupees were imposed on seller, but the seller is eventually paying 4 rupees and the buyer is eventually paying 6 rupees. This is just an example. I mean, what determines whether a consumer bears 6 rupees worth of tax or 7 rupees or 2 rupees, what determines all this proportional division of tax between consumer and producer is something that we'll study. So, so suppose government imposed tax on ice cream seller, who will bear the eventual burden of tax? So we have to do this analysis in the step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of format that we know. So let's try doing that. So step 1, government has imposed tax on ice cream seller. Imposing a tax on seller implies the cost of production of ice cream seller has gone up. So it's not an increase in price directly, it's other factor affecting the supply side. So we know from our other factors affecting supply, we know that this shifts the supply curve. So the step one used to be, does it affect demand or supply? So answer to that step is, it's going to affect supply. Step 2 used to be, does it shift it right or left? So from this, that there's a tax on seller, it implies that it's going to shift the supply curve and it's going to shift it leftward. Left, people also call it upward, and we'll see why upward also makes sense. Then we'll go to step 3. Step 3 is the equilibrium analysis. So how does outcome change, which means price and quantity change? So let's say this is price of ice cream, this is quantity of ice cream, and let's say this is the original demand and supply curve for ice cream, and let's say this is Suppose ice cream sells for a price of 30 rupees in equilibrium, and let's say 100 units sell at 30 rupees. Now government says that sellers have to pay a tax of, let me say, tax on seller of rupees 5 per unit. So if government has imposed a tax of 5 rupees per unit, then that is going to shift the supply curve leftward in this diagram, right? So now what I'm going to say is important, so pay attention to that. We can tell how much this supply curve is going to shift leftward. So earlier at a price of 30, the seller used to say that I'll supply 100 units. Now the seller will say, because I have to pay 5 rupees to government, so I will want 35 rupees to supply same 100 units. So at 100 units, seller will say that I will want 35 rupees. Similarly, suppose earlier at a price of 25, seller used to say that I will supply 80 units. Now to supply 80 units, if seller supplies 80 units at a price of 25, then seller is eventually going to get 20 because he's going to pay 5 rupees to government. So he says, no, I will not supply at 25 now because I have to pay 5 rupees to government. So you have to pay me 30 rupees, or at a price of 30, now I should be willing to supply 80 units again. So for 80 units, he wants a price of 30 rupees. Similarly, suppose earlier the seller was willing to sell at a price of 40, he was willing to sell, let's say, 120 units. Now he'll say, if you want me to sell 120 units now, because I'll get 40, but I'll have to pay 5 rupees to government. So you have to pay me 45 rupees. Let's say this is 45. You have to pay me 45 rupees for me to supply same 120 units. So as a result, if you see, the supply curve has shifted upward, or this is also called leftward because it's a leftward shift as well. But it has shifted upward by the same amount as was the tax imposed on the seller. So this difference is rupees 5, rupees 5. Okay. So let me actually. So this is rupees 5. So you'll say supply curve shifts up by rupees 5. Now you do the analysis as you usually do. So supply curve has shifted upward by 5, or it is also a shift left. How do we do our analysis now? We talk about the equilibrium analysis now. So in equilibrium, we'll say what is the original going on price. I mean, this understanding that I gave you was only to explain you that supply curve will shift leftward / upward by rupees 5. Now we do our equilibrium analysis in exactly the same manner as we are so used to doing. So what is the equilibrium going on price? So this is the equilibrium price. This was my original equilibrium. So I'll say at equilibrium at existing equilibrium price P equal to 30, quantity demanded is still 100. Quantity supplied as per the new curve is 80. So this implies quantity demanded greater than quantity supplied. This implies excess demand. And whenever there is excess demand, prices tend to rise. So prices will rise. So price rises until it reaches new equilibrium price. So as a result, price will continue rising until it reaches here. So let's say this is 33. New equilibrium price P equal to 33. So let's So initial equilibrium price was 30. Government imposed tax on seller equal to rupees 5. What is the new equilibrium price that we see now? It is 33. What does this mean? That this implies for buyer, price change is equal to old price minus new price, or actually other way around. New price minus old price. So new price that the buyer is paying now is 33. The old price that the buyer was paying earlier was 30. So for buyer, price has increased by 3 rupees. For seller, let's check this. Price change is equal to new price minus old price. So the buyer is getting 33 rupees now. Sorry. No. The buyer is getting 28 rupees now, because he charges 33 from the consumer, but out of those 33 he has to pay 5 rupees to the government. So the buyer is eventually getting 28 rupees now, and he used to get 30 rupees earlier. So the buyer is losing 2 rupees, and the seller is losing 2 rupees. The buyer is also losing 3 rupees. So if you take it from here, buyer pays rupees 3 extra, seller receives rupees 2 lesser. So this 3 plus 2 is equal to the 5, that is the tax. So this is what I want to say, that this division is the incidence of tax. This is the burden of tax. So from here we understand that a tax of rupees 5, which was imposed on the seller only, is eventually being shared by both the buyers and sellers. And in fact, if you see here, the buyer is paying 3 rupees and the seller is paying 2 rupees. So the buyer actually paid more tax than the seller, even though the tax was imposed on the seller. So this is something that can happen, and that does happen. So when, I mean, this is from the real life. In real life, when the government imposes a tax on firms, it is very likely that it's the consumers also who are paying a proportion of that tax. They may be paying a greater proportion of the tax than the sellers. What determines the proportion which the buyer pays and the proportion that the seller pays, we'll talk about that later. But for now, what's important for you to take away from here is that when a tax is imposed on the seller, even the buyer could also chip in. Even the buyer could also be contributing to that tax. I mean, it could not, it isn't likely that the seller is going to pay all of it. The buyer may also be contributing certain proportion to it. Okay, so that's the idea, that a tax imposed on seller does not mean that it's the seller paying it. It's the two contributing, most likely. Similarly, the tax imposed on the buyer does not mean that it's the buyer paying it. It again could be the contribution by the two of them taken together. So that's the idea that we take away from here. So this picture explains that to you. This comes from your book. So in this picture, we see that this is your demand curve, this is your original supply curve, and your equilibrium price is 3. This is your old equilibrium, or the existing equilibrium. Then what happens? A tax on seller is imposed. When a tax on seller is imposed, the tax shifts the supply curve leftward. And that leftward / upward is by the amount of this tax. So in this example that they've drawn here, the tax has been increased by 50 cents, so 0.5 of a dollar. As a result, you see the supply curve shifting upward by 0.5. So this distance is $0.5. This distance is $0.5 by the same logic that I just explained you in my diagram that I drew in the previous slide. So the supply curve shifts leftward / upward. Now you do the equilibrium analysis in exactly the same manner. So you'll say at my old equilibrium, which is 3, there is this much amount of quantity supplied and this is the quantity demanded. So there is a situation of excess demand at P equal to 3. At my old equilibrium, there is a situation of excess demand, which will imply that price increases. And price increases until you reach the new equilibrium. So you reach the new equilibrium at 3.3. So in this example, if you see, the buyer used to pay 3 rupees earlier, $3 earlier. The buyer now pays 3.30. So change for buyer, the buyer new price minus old price. Buyer used to pay, buyer now pays 3.3. Earlier the buyer used to pay 3. So it's 30 cents or 0.3 of a dollar that the buyer is paying extra now. Let's check the change for seller. New price minus old price. New price for the seller. Again, the market price is 3.30, but how much is seller getting out of it? The seller has to pay 50 cents to the government. So as a result, the new price for seller is actually $2.80. So seller is getting only this much. What did he used to get earlier? He used to get $3 earlier. So he's losing out minus $0.2. So the buyer loses 20 cents, the seller loses 30 cents. So the tax, which was 50 cents, is actually 0.3 plus 0.2. This much is being paid by the buyer and this much is being paid by the seller. So this is your incidence of tax, or this is the tax burden. A tax which is imposed on the seller is being shared by both the buyers and sellers in eventually in equilibrium, in the new equilibrium. Okay, so that's what so the seller is, the buyer is paying 3.30 to the seller, but the seller is actually receiving 2.80 because in the middle, this 0.50 is the tax which the seller has to pay to the government. So as a result, this 2.80 is the price that the seller receives. And 3.30 is the price that the buyer pays. So in the market, in the free market analysis, wherein there is no such tax by the government, if the buyer used to pay 3.30, the seller used to receive 3.30. But now with the tax, if the buyer pays 3.30 and the tax is to be paid by seller, then in that case, the seller actually receives 2.80 because 50 cents goes to the government, right? It's only the pocket of seller which is taking out 50 cents, but actually it's going from both of them. That's what we've seen here. The burden of tax is shared by both of them, 30 cents and 20 cents. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So what do we understand? So in essence, a tax reduced the quantity demanded and supplied in equilibrium. So in this picture, we observe that due to a tax, this is a new quantity, 90 is a new quantity demanded and supplied. Buyers and sellers both shared the burden of tax, not just the seller on whom this tax was imposed. Buyers paid more than the old equilibrium price and sellers received less than the old equilibrium price. That's their punishment. I mean, due to a tax, buyers have now paid higher than what they used to pay earlier, and sellers have now eventually received lesser than what they used to receive earlier. So the middle portion is the tax that they have to pay to the government. So therefore, from now onward, suppose you become a policy maker and you are thinking about imposing a tax, it should come to your mind that the tax that I'm imposing, whom am I imposing it on? And if that question is coming to your mind, you should have the answer that it doesn't matter. I mean, most likely that any tax that I impose, whether it is imposed on firms or on consumers, it's going to be shared by them. Okay, but still there's another attribute to it, which is what proportion of it is going to be shared by consumer, what proportion of it is going to be shared by producer. That is something that we'll learn. But so far, what we've learned is that a tax imposed on firms or consumers could possibly be shared by both. That's what we've learned. Then we go to another such example. How does a tax on income affect economic outcomes? Do firms also bear the burden of tax? So a tax which is imposed on the incomes of people. Is it just that for instance, my income is taxed, right? But is it just me who is paying this tax, or is it the university as well bearing the burden of this tax? So let's look at this from the same lens that we just learned about. So this analysis is about labor market, income, wage, right? So therefore, it has to be a labor market diagram. You can't draw a simple the other one diagram. So let's say this is working hours. So this is the quantity of working hours. And this is the price of working hours, which is what? Which is wage per hour. And let's say this is the original demand and this is the original supply curve. Demand is the Ahmedabad University in this case, because they are the ones demanding working hours from me, and supply curve, it's me, because I'm the one supplying working hours. I supply greater number of working hours if I get a higher price per hour, higher wage per hour. Similarly, Ahmedabad University hires more working hours if per hour wage rate is lower. As it keeps on decreasing, the quantity demanded by Ahmedabad University keeps on rising. Okay, now we get to know that there's an income tax. So firstly, step one. So I get to know that there's an income tax. Income tax is imposed on the person who is making that income, who's earning that income. So step one tells me that there's a tax on me. My incomes go down, right? So therefore, what should happen? My supply curve, because I'm the supplier in this case, right? So I'm the supplier, and it's not the wage rate that has changed. It's the tax on wage that has changed. So this is a part of other factors affecting supply, right? So don't mix it up. I am not a consumer in this case. I'm a seller of my working hours, right? So in this case, you'll observe that when a tax is imposed on me, it's like a tax on any commodity. It's a tax on the ice cream seller, right? Just like a tax on ice cream seller shifts the supply curve, a tax on me shifts my supply curve, right? So it's going to be supply curve shifts. Step two is, which direction does it shift? Because it's a tax on me, right? So tax is going to lead to lesser working hours at all wage rates. So it's going to shift left. And step three is the equilibrium analysis. So we'll talk about it. All right. So now let's shift the supply curve leftward first, and then we'll talk about more on it. So suppose let's take some figures. Suppose the current equilibrium wage rate is 50 rupees. Yeah, sorry, that was a. Suppose the current wage rate is 50. This is the current wage rate, 50 rupees per hour. Okay, so this is my equilibrium wage rate. Now I get to know that there's an income tax of rupees 10 per hour. As a result, what will I say? Suppose this equilibrium quantity is 100 hours is what I supply in equilibrium. So I'll say that earlier, to supply 100 hours, I was okay with 50 rupees per hour, right? But now, because out of those 50, government will take away 10 rupees from me. So I'm only going to be left with 40 rupees. So I don't want that. I want 50 rupees for 100 hours. So I'll say that for 100 hours, if you want me to continue supplying 100 hours, you'll have to pay me 10 rupees extra. You'll have to pay me 60 rupees per hour so that I can pay 10 to government, and I'm left with 10 rupees. I'm left with 50 rupees, right? Similarly, suppose earlier at a price of 40 rupees per hour used to supply, let's say 75 units of work hours. Now you'll say, if you want me to supply 75 units of work hours, you'll have to pay me 10 rupees extra because I need to pay 10 rupees to government. So if I supplied at 40, I'll only be left with 30 rupees per hour, right? I don't want that. I want 40. If you want me to supply 75, I want 40 rupees per hour. So you'll have to pay me 10 rupees extra, which means 50, so that I can pay 10 to government and I'm left with 40 per hour. And same logic applies. So you'll see the supply curve shifts leftward, upward, and this distance is the tax. Okay, so this vertical distance is the tax. So now once we know which direction does it shift and by how much it shifts, then we need to do the equilibrium analysis, which is the plain equilibrium analysis that you already know how to do. So we start with at old equilibrium, or at the existing equilibrium rather. At this price, the quantity demanded still is 100. But the quantity supplied is, let's say, this point. So this is 75. So this is a situation of excess demand. And whenever there is a situation of excess demand, prices tend to rise. So prices will rise until the new equilibrium. So new equilibrium, let's say, is this much. So this is going to be something lesser than 60. So let's say this is 57. Okay, so why is this less than 10? Why is this point, why is this new equilibrium not 60? Because this vertical distance is 10, right? The vertical distance between two supply curves is 10. So from original equilibrium, which is this line, it has risen only this much, not by the entire 10. So this is entire 10, but your new equilibrium is only this much higher from the old equilibrium. So this has to be less than 10 by the logic of it. So therefore your price increases from 50 to 57. So this is just a rough number that I'm taking. 57, it could be 56, it could be 55, but it will not be 60 or more, because this distance is 10. So if this distance is 10, if your price was 50 and you only increase it by this much distance, then it cannot be 10 or more. It has to be less than 10 by the logic, by the mathematical or the logical analysis, if you do that, right? So so price increases from 50 to 57. Price increases from 50 to 57. Now look at buyer. The buyer is now paying 57, and earlier the buyer used to pay 50. So the buyer is paying 7 rupees extra. Look at the seller. The seller is now receiving, sorry, I think I made a mistake here. Okay, so the equilibrium wage rate is 57. So the the supplier in this case is, so supplier is me in this case. I'm the worker. So I'm receiving 57 rupees as wage rate, but I have to pay 10 rupees out of that to government as tax. So I'm actually receiving just 47. Earlier I used to receive 50. So I'm actually receiving 3 rupees lesser from what I used to receive earlier. Okay, so in this case, it's not buyer, it's actually seller. And what about buyer? So this is Ahmedabad University, the employer, and this is me, the seller of working hours. So the buyer, the Ahmedabad University, they used to earlier pay 50 rupees. Now they are paying 57. That's the new equilibrium. So they are paying 57 Earlier, they used to pay 50. So they are paying 7 rupees extra now. So the buyer of working hours, Ahmedabad University, is now paying 7 rupees extra. The seller of working hours, me, I used to get 50 rupees earlier. Now I'm getting only 47 because I get 57 from Ahmedabad University. I paid 10 to government. So I'm left with 47. So 3 rupees is my loss. 7 rupees is the loss of buyer. So in this case, the 10 rupee tax imposed on me is actually 7 plus 3, where 7 comes from the buyer, which is Ahmedabad University, and 3 comes from me, right, the seller. So if you see, I was asked to pay 10 rupees tax and I just paid 3 rupees. I passed on 7 of those to the Ahmedabad University. So, so how is this? So these two cases actually try to explain you exactly the same thing, that if a tax is imposed on you, whether you are an income earner or you are a commodity consumer or you are a commodity producer or you are an employer, if a tax is imposed on you, you might not be paying all of that tax on your own. You might be sharing that tax with somebody. So the burden of tax, the eventual burden of tax may be shared, right? So a tax imposed on one party does not mean that it's that party who's paying that tax. Eventually, it could be both the parties paying that tax. Now, let me take a hypothetical scenario wherein I say, suppose suppose tax is on employer. So I work for Ahmedabad University, but I don't have to pay income tax. It's my employer, Ahmedabad University, who has to pay income tax for me. Okay, so the tax is imposed on employer. So it goes out of the pocket of the employer, out of the pocket of the Ahmedabad University. So what changes here? So your step one, so Ahmedabad University or the employer is the consumer of working hours in this case. So that the consumer, the demand curve is going to be affected. So if it has become more expensive for the consumer at all prices, the demand curve is going to shift leftward. Just like for the supply analysis, you do it. Similarly, you'll do it for the demand analysis here. So a tax on employer in this case is a tax on the buyer. Wait, I haven't shared my screen. Yeah. So I said, suppose there's a tax on employer. So step one to that is, who is affected? Is it the consumer side or is it the supplier side? So, so we know that a tax on employer would shift whosoever the employer belongs to. The employer is the consumer share of working hours. So the demand curve is going to shift. The demand curve is going to shift leftward because they have to pay tax. So they'll buy lesser of working hours at all prices. So as a result, it's going to shift the demand. Step two, which direction does it shift? It's going to shift it leftward. And step three is the equilibrium analysis. So we'll talk about it. So suppose that 10 rupees tax that we talked about on income, instead of being imposed on the income earner, for instance, me, it's rather imposed on the employer. So Ahmedabad University. So suppose tax amount is rupees 10 and it's imposed on the employer. So in that case, if you draw the demand and supply curve, so this is your demand, this is your supply. So in this case, it's the demand curve that's going to shift leftward slash downward. So demand will shift leftward slash downward. So suppose earlier the equilibrium wage was 50 and number of hours were 100. So now as a buyer, as an employer, I will say that to buy 100 working hours, I was willing to pay 50. Now I need to pay 10 rupees to government as well. So it is going to cost me 60. I don't want to pay 60. I want to pay 50 for 100. So therefore I'll pay 40 to the worker and I'll pay 10 to the government so that it's 50 to me. So as a result, for 100 units, the employer will say that I'll pay only 50, sorry, 40. Let me change the color. The employer will say I'll pay only 40. So employer will reduce by 10. Similarly, suppose at 75 units of working hours, earlier employer used to say that for 75, I am willing to pay 35 rupees. Now he'll say for 75, if I pay you 30, I'll have to pay 10 to government. So it's going 45 rupees from my pocket. I don't want to do that. I want to pay 35 rupees for 75 units of work hours. So 35 per hour for 75 units of work hour. So to pay 35, I'll pay you 25 and I'll pay 10 to the government. So as a result, I'll get 75 units of work hours from you only if you are willing to accept 25 units. So this distance again is 10. So therefore not this distance. Instead, I think I was supposed to do it on demand. I by mistake did it on supply. So let's do it on demand. So for 75 units, as Ahmedabad University, you said that I am willing to pay 60 rupees. Now, due to tax, you have to pay 60 to the seller of working hours. You also have to pay 10 rupees to the government. So as a result, the cost to the buyer, to Ahmedabad University, is actually 60 plus 10, 70. Ahmedabad University says, I cannot supply 70 rupees for 75 units. I cannot pay 70 rupees. I'll pay only 60. So how do they pay 60? They'll say, I'll pay 50 to you and I'll pay 10 to government. So therefore, to buy 75 units, they'll say that I am only willing to pay 50 rupees, right? So for 100 units, they said, I am willing to pay 40 rupees. For 75, I am willing to pay 60. Similarly, for any number of units, they are willing to pay anything which is 10 rupees lesser than the previous. So if you join this, this is a downward shift in the demand curve. This is a leftward slash downward shift in the demand curve. And this vertical distance is rupees 10, which is tax on employer. Okay, so once you know that the demand curve is shifting leftward, rightward, then you do your equilibrium analysis in exactly the same manner, that at existing equilibrium price of 50, there is a situation of, so this is quantity, this is your quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is equal to 75 and your quantity supplied is the same, which is 100. So you have a situation of excess supply, which implies prices will go down until the new equilibrium. So from 50, you'll observe prices going down. So prices will go down and they'll continue going down until the new equilibrium. So this new equilibrium, let's say this is 55. Why will this not be 10? Because the vertical distance between two demand curves is 10. So if this entire distance is 10, then your prices have gone down from the previous equilibrium, which is 50, to the new equilibrium, which is this. So your prices have gone down by this much, but 10 is actually this much. As you can see, this is the vertical distance. So 10 is greater than the amount by which prices have gone down. So it shouldn't be from 50 to 40. It should be from 50 to sorry, 45 or 43 or 42 or 41, but not 40, not lesser than 40, right? So prices have gone down by lesser than 10. So therefore, buyer, so buyer is Ahmedabad University. Ahmedabad University earlier used to pay 50. Now Ahmedabad University at this new equilibrium is paying 45. But out of this 45, actually, I mean, in addition to this 45, they have to pay 10 rupees to government as well as tax. So for the Ahmedabad University, it's 55 because they have to pay 45 to the employee plus 10 rupees to the government. So they're paying 55. Earlier, they used to pay 50. So they are paying 5 rupees extra. And the seller, which is the worker in this case, is receiving 45 now. The new price received is 45. But earlier, he or she used to receive 50 rupees. So therefore, they are receiving 5 rupees lesser. So as an employee at Ahmedabad University, I'm receiving 5 rupees lesser. As Ahmedabad University, they're paying 5 rupees more. So government imposed a tax of 10 rupees on them. But that 10 rupees is being shared by me, the employee, and Ahmedabad University, the employer. So they're paying only 5 rupees. I'm paying the other 5 rupees, right? So when government imposed it on Ahmedabad University, they thought that it's Ahmedabad University who will pay that. But it eventually ended up that I'm also sharing a part of it, right? Because your demand curves are like this is what is causing this. So we'll study as we go on that if demand curves change their shape, how does this proportional share change? Or there could be cases wherein there's absolutely zero contribution by one party. Buyers will say, I'm not willing to contribute, or sellers will say, I'm not willing to contribute. So we'll see when are those cases there. So we'll talk about them as well. So this slide here shows you that whether you impose this tax on buyer of working hours or the seller of working hours, the tax amount is going to be the same, this much, and it is going to be shared by the two parties. So in this case, this proportion is being shared by Ahmedabad University, this proportion is being shared by me as supplier of the working hour. So this is the supply side, this is the demand side. I am sitting here as supplier of working hours. Ahmedabad University is sitting here as consumer of the working hours. There's a tax imposed on me. If the tax is imposed on me and I'm the supplier, then it's going to shift my supply curve leftward, downward by the amount of tax, which is this much. If I am if I am Ahmedabad University, or if this tax is imposed on Ahmedabad University, then it's going to shift the demand curve downward. Then it's going to shift again by this much distance. So basically what it's telling you is if the tax is imposed on me, then the supply curve will shift upward by this vertical distance, which is the tax amount. Let's say 10 rupees. If the tax is imposed on Ahmedabad University, then the demand curve will shift leftward, downward by this vertical distance, which is again 10 rupees. So in any case, the demand or the supply curve is going to shift leftward, downward by the amount of tax. Okay. And then that tax is going to be divided between the two parties. So if this was your new, the old equilibrium P naught, this is your new equilibrium P1. Based on this, you will calculate how much is the tax division between the two parties. Similarly, if this was your old equilibrium P naught, this is your new equilibrium P1. Based on this, you will determine how much is the tax division between the two parties. Okay, so I'm stopping this lecture here. I'll record another lecture to talk about rest of the stuff on tax. So there's still one more lecture to go on this. All right. Thank you, everybody.